Hi everyone, so we're just going to quickly go over the answers to TaskSet 3. These 4 links here to question 2, question 3, question 4 and question 5. Okay, let's start with question 2. Okay, question 2. An algorithm has been written in pseudocode to input some numbers and print out any numbers that are greater than or equal to 100, greater than or equal to 100. The number 999 stops the algorithm. So we're going to input a number, and while that number isn't the same as, so this means isn't the same as, while we have a number that isn't the same as 999, we're going to go into a loop, right? If we enter 999, then that is false. 999 doesn't equal 999. Well, that's false, so that will stop that loop. So we're going to enter any number to get into the loop. Okay, so let's have a look at the issue. The first thing we're going to do is input a number, and then it says while numbers. What is this numbers? That's not what we're looking for. We're testing this thing that we input. We input a number and then we check if it's not equal to 999. So that should be while number doesn't equal. So error number 1 is while numbers doesn't equal 999 do, and the correction is while number, the thing that we input, doesn't equal 999 do. Alright, so if that doesn't make sense, if you don't understand what I'm talking about here, you need to talk to someone about that. That is a key concept in computer science. Please make sure you understand that correction. Now, if the number that we enter is greater than 100, well, we're asking for greater than or equal to 100. If number is greater than or equal to 100, we're going to print the number. We're going to display it. So that's wrong. So error 2, if number is greater than 100, then print number. End if. That's wrong. What it should be is if number is greater than or equal to 100, then print number. Now, another error that we have here is in the while loop, we need to enter another number to keep the while loop going, but there is no more input inside the while loop. Number never changes, so it's always this one. That first one that we entered is the only value that this while loop understands. So after we check that value, after we do the checking and the printing, we need to get another number to stay in the while loop. So error number 3 is there is no opportunity to enter another number in the loop. And so the correction would be after the if statement, input number, because we need to get another number to stay in that while loop. Now hopefully you guys are familiar with how while loops work, so that concept should be clear to you. If it's not clear to you, then you need to talk to someone and you need to make that clear for yourself. Okay, that might take a little bit of discussion with somebody and some practice. Make sure you understand that concept. And the 4th error is when we come out of the while loop, why are we printing number? The question is, how do we get out of this while loop? we get out of the while loop when we enter 999. When number equals 999, the while loop stops and we come out. Are we asked to print the number 999? No. We print out any numbers that are greater than or equal to 100. There's no need to print out 999. We don't need that line of code. Don't need print number at the end of the program. And the correction would simply be delete that line of code at the end of the program. Let's just try and be specific. Don't need it. So that's the answer to question 2A. It's a little bit tricky. It looks easy, but it's quite tricky. Make sure you understand these concepts that I've talked about in this answer. Okay, let's move on to part B. Show, using pseudocode, how you would change the corrected algorithm to print out any numbers between 100 and 200 inclusive. So all we have to do is just show how we would change this to print out numbers between 100 and 200 inclusive, not just numbers that are greater than or equal to 100. So we really want to change this line of code. Okay, so change the if statement to, let's just change it, if number is greater than or equal to 100 and number is less than or equal to 200, then print number. End if. Right, so this is the new range. We're looking for numbers between 100 and 200 inclusive. That will trap those numbers. Okay, so that's part B. Let's move on to question 3, which is a trace table question. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I want you to be aware of something. At the very beginning of this flowchart, total weight and total number are set to 0. And then we start to input values. So make sure your solution starts with total weight is 0, total number is 0, and then we start to input weights and determine total weights, etc. So you need to make sure that you've got this at the start of your trace table. Okay, let's move on to question number 4. A program checks if the weight of a baby is at least 2 kilograms. Give, with reasons, 2 different values of test data that could be used to test the baby's weight. We just want to make sure that this program deals with data correctly, and it checks if the weight of a baby is at least 2 kilograms. And we're being asked to give values of test data, so sample values that could be used. Okay? So we're really thinking about validation checks here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say value 1 is going to be 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this will check if the program rejects data of the wrong type. So this is a type check. Really, this program should only, or maybe, I'm assuming, it only accepts integers. But I'm going to give it a string. Let's just make that clear. And I'm going to say this will check if the program rejects data of the wrong type. So that's going to be my first test data item. And value 2, let's put in a test value of 2. This will check if the program accepts extreme data. So this is extreme data at the edge of a range. So let's just make a comment, range check. In fact, that's not a bad idea. Let's put in the type of check we're doing as well. Brilliant. So that's my answer to question 4. And question 5, I think, is it this question? Let's just go back to the task set. I'm going to click on question 5, see if I can find it. Was that it? 5. Explain the difference between the programming concepts of sequence and selection. Include an example of a programming statement for each concept. Okay? So sequence and selection. So question 5, I'm just going to say, okay, sequence. This is the order of programming statements that a program must follow. For example, let's say input number and then print number. That's the sequence that the program is going to follow. We're not going to print the number and then input. We're going to input and then print. So that's a nice example of sequencing. Selection. This allows a computer program to choose a different path depending on a condition, right? And my programming statement would be input x, and then if x doesn't equal 0, then print please enter 0. Right, so there's a description of selection, and then there's an example as well, which is being asked for. And those are my solutions to that task set.